Sometimes life reaches a point when nothing seems to be working. You make dua, you try your best, yet the situation around you does not change. It begins to feel as if Allah is silent. But the truth is, Allah is never absent from your story. There are moments when Allah is preparing something for you behind the scenes, something your eyes cannot see yet. A door you never expected, a relief you did not imagine, a miracle that arrives at the perfect time. What feels like delay may actually be preparation. And when Allah decides that the moment has come, everything can change in a way only He can bring. There are moments in life when a person feels as though they are standing still while everything around them moves forward. Days pass, weeks pass, and sometimes even years pass, yet the situation they are praying about does not seem to change. A person continues to make dua, continues to hope, and continues to try, but the outcome they desire remains distant. During such times, it is easy for the heart to become tired and the mind to begin asking difficult questions. A believer may quietly wonder why their prayers have not yet been answered or why relief has not yet arrived. These moments of waiting can feel heavy, especially when the effort has been sincere and the hope has been strong. When life feels like nothing is changing, it can create a deep sense of uncertainty. People naturally look for signs of progress, signs that their struggles are moving toward a solution. But sometimes Allah allows a situation to remain unchanged for a period of time. This does not mean that the prayers are unheard or that the effort is unnoticed. Instead, it often means that something greater is unfolding in ways the human mind cannot yet understand. Allah's wisdom operates beyond the limited view that we have of our circumstances. During these periods of waiting, patience becomes one of the most valuable qualities a believer can hold on to. Patience does not mean ignoring pain or pretending that difficulties do not exist. Rather, it means trusting that Allah is aware of the situation and that His timing is always perfect. Even when nothing seems to be shifting on the surface, Allah's plan continues to move forward. The believer may not see the progress immediately, but the story is still being written by the one who knows the beginning and the end. Sometimes the feeling that nothing is changing comes from focusing only on visible results. Human beings often expect change to appear quickly and clearly, but Allah sometimes works in ways that are quiet and gradual. He may be preparing the heart before changing the situation. He may be strengthening faith, building patience, or teaching lessons that will become valuable in the future. These inner changes are not always obvious, yet they are part of the journey that Allah has designed for each believer. Waiting can also become a time of reflection. When life slows down and progress seems invisible, it creates space for a person to think more deeply about their relationship with Allah. They begin to evaluate their intentions, their habits, and their priorities. This reflection can bring spiritual growth that might never have occurred if everything had changed immediately. In this way, what appears to be a delay can actually become a moment of personal transformation. There are many stories throughout Islamic history where relief came after long periods of waiting. The prophets themselves experienced moments when the path forward seemed uncertain, yet their patience and trust in Allah eventually led to outcomes greater than what anyone could have imagined. These examples remind believers that difficulty and delay are not signs of abandonment. They are often part of a larger plan guided by divine wisdom. When a person continues making dua even when nothing appears to change, it shows strength of faith. It means the believer has not given up hope in Allah's mercy. Every sincere dua is heard, even if the response comes in a different form or at a different time than expected. Allah knows exactly when the answer will bring the most benefit. It is also important to remember that change does not always happen suddenly. Sometimes Allah prepares the circumstances slowly so that when the moment of relief arrives, it fits perfectly into the believer's life. What feels like a pause may actually be preparation. The pieces of the story are being arranged in ways that the human eye cannot yet see. In these quiet seasons of waiting, the believer is invited to strengthen their connection with Allah. Continued prayer, remembrance, and trust become sources of stability. Instead of measuring progress only by visible change, the believer begins to find peace in knowing that Allah is in control of every detail. The heart often grows stronger through these experiences. When someone learns to trust Allah during moments of uncertainty, their faith becomes more resilient. They begin to understand that life is not only about immediate results, but about the journey of growth and closeness to Allah. Many believers look back on these waiting periods and realize that they were not empty moments at all. They were times when Allah was shaping their character, strengthening their patience, and preparing them for what was coming next. What once felt like silence becomes clearer when viewed through the lens of faith. When life feels like nothing is changing, it does not mean that nothing is happening. Allah is always aware, always guiding, and always working in ways that may remain hidden for a time. The believer's role is to continue trusting, continue praying, and continue believing that even when the path is unclear, the one who controls every step is leading them towards something greater. Every believer has experienced moments when they ask Allah for something sincerely, yet the response seems to take longer than expected. The heart makes dua with hope, believing that relief will arrive quickly, but days or months may pass without visible change. During these times, a person may begin to wonder why the answer has not appeared yet. Islam teaches that Allah hears every supplication and knows every need even before the words leave the tongue. A delay does not mean the prayer has been ignored. It often means that Allah's wisdom is guiding the situation toward a better outcome. What appears to be waiting from the human perspective is often careful preparation from the divine perspective. Allah understands the future in ways that human beings cannot. When a person asks for something, they usually see only their present need or desire. Allah, however, sees every possible outcome connected to that request. Sometimes what the heart wants immediately may not yet be the best moment for it to arrive. By delaying the answer, Allah protects the believer from harm they cannot see. This delay may feel difficult in the moment, but it is often an act of mercy. Allah's wisdom ensures that blessings appear at the time when they will bring the greatest benefit. Another reason for delay is spiritual growth. When someone waits patiently while continuing to trust Allah, their faith becomes stronger. The process of waiting encourages humility and dependence on the Creator. It teaches the believer that life is not controlled by human timelines, but by divine wisdom. Through this waiting, a person learns to rely more deeply on Allah rather than relying only on their own plans or expectations. A delayed answer can also become an opportunity for deeper reflection. When a person continues making dua over time, they begin to examine their intentions and their relationship with Allah. They may become more consistent in prayer, more thoughtful in their actions, and more aware of their need for guidance. These changes in character are valuable blessings in themselves. The waiting period becomes a moment of personal transformation rather than simply a pause before the answer arrives. Sometimes Allah delays a response because something better is being prepared. What the heart asks for may be good, but Allah may intend to give something even greater. Human beings often limit their hopes to what they can imagine. Allah's generosity, however, is not limited by human imagination. By delaying the answer, Allah may be arranging circumstances that will allow the blessing to arrive in a more meaningful and lasting way. Delays also remind believers of the importance of patience. Patience in Islam is not passive resignation, it is an active trust in Allah's plan. It means continuing to pray, continuing to hope, and continuing to do what is right, even when results are not immediately visible. This form of patience strengthens the heart and teaches resilience. A believer who learns to wait with faith develops a deeper sense of inner stability. A delayed answer may also protect the believer from becoming ungrateful. When something arrives instantly, people sometimes fail to recognize its value. Waiting allows the heart to appreciate the blessing more fully when it finally arrives. The period of longing creates a deeper understanding of how precious the answer truly is. Gratitude grows stronger when a person remembers the time they spent asking Allah for that very gift. Delays can also guide a person toward a different path. While someone waits for a specific outcome, they may discover opportunities or lessons they would have missed otherwise. Allah's plan sometimes redirects a believer in ways that lead to unexpected goodness. What seemed like an unanswered prayer may actually be guidance towards something more beneficial. Another wisdom behind delay is the strengthening of dua itself. When a believer continues to call upon Allah repeatedly, the relationship with their Creator becomes deeper and more sincere. Each supplication becomes a moment of closeness with Allah. The believer begins to value the act of dua itself, not only the result they are asking for. A delay may also serve as a reminder that life is a journey guided by divine wisdom rather than human urgency. Modern life often encourages people to expect immediate results in every area. Faith teaches a different perspective. Allah's timing operates beyond the pace of human expectations, and learning to accept this truth brings peace to the heart. Many believers look back on their lives and realize that certain delays were actually blessings in disguise. What once felt like a difficult wait becomes understandable when seen from the perspective of time and faith. The answer arrived at exactly the moment it was meant to, and the believer recognizes that Allah's wisdom was guiding every step. When Allah delays an answer, it does not mean the door of mercy is closed. It means the story is still unfolding. The believer continues making dua, continues trusting, and continues believing that Allah's plan is always better than what the human mind can imagine. In this trust, the heart finds patience, and within that patience, faith becomes stronger. Sometimes a person looks at their life and feels that nothing is moving forward. They continue making dua, continue hoping, and continue trying to improve their situation, yet the visible results seem distant. What the human eye often misses is that Allah's plan does not always unfold in ways that are immediately obvious. Just because change is not visible does not mean that nothing is happening. Allah is always aware of every detail in a person's life, and His wisdom is constantly guiding events in ways the believer may not yet understand. The heart may feel uncertain, but behind the scenes Allah may already be arranging circumstances that will eventually bring relief, guidance and blessings. Human understanding is limited to what can be seen in the present moment. A person may only see the difficulty they are facing or the door that appears closed in front of them. Allah, however, sees the full picture. He knows what lies ahead, what lies behind, and what exists in every unseen part of the story. The delay of an answer or the silence of change may actually be part of a careful arrangement that ensures the final outcome will be better than what the believer originally imagined. Sometimes Allah prepares people before He prepares the opportunity. A believer may ask for a blessing, but their heart or character may still need growth before that blessing arrives. During this time, Allah shapes the person through experiences that strengthen patience, humility, and trust. These internal changes may not be obvious at first, but they are essential parts of the journey. When the moment finally arrives, the believer is ready to handle the blessing with gratitude and responsibility. Another part of Allah's hidden work involves the circumstances around a person's life. While someone is waiting for relief or a new opportunity, many factors may be shifting quietly. Situations that seemed unrelated may be aligning in ways that will eventually create the right moment for change. From the human perspective, these adjustments are invisible. From Allah's perspective, they are part of a perfect design unfolding step by step. The believer often focuses on what they want to see happen immediately, but Allah sometimes works slowly so that every part of the story fits together in the most beneficial way. If something were to arrive too early, it might create challenges that the person is not yet prepared to face. By arranging events carefully, Allah ensures that blessings appear at the time when they will bring the most good. Hidden preparation can also involve protecting a person from harm they do not see. What appears to be a closed door may actually be Allah shielding the believer from something that would have caused difficulty later. A delay can prevent regret, redirect a path, or guide a person towards something far better. Even when the reason remains unclear at the moment, Allah's wisdom is always working in the believer's favor. While these changes unfold quietly, the believer is invited to strengthen their trust in Allah. Faith is not only about understanding every detail of the plan, it is about believing that the one who created the plan is perfect in His wisdom. Trust allows the heart to remain calm even when the full picture is hidden from view. The unseen work of Allah also shapes the believer's relationship with Him. Waiting encourages more frequent dua, deeper reflection, and a stronger connection with faith. A person who continues turning to Allah during uncertain times often discovers a level of closeness that might not have developed if everything had happened instantly. Every story guided by Allah has a timing that is unique and precise. What appears slow from a human perspective may actually be perfectly balanced in the greater design of life. When the moment finally arrives, the believer often realizes that every delay, every experience, and every step of preparation played a role in shaping the outcome. Another part of this unseen process is the strengthening of hope. While waiting, a believer learns to trust that Allah's mercy is never absent from their story. Even when circumstances feel difficult, faith reminds the heart that Allah is always working toward what is best. Many people later look back at their lives and recognize how events were quietly unfolding long before they understood their purpose. Situations that once felt confusing eventually reveal their meaning. What once seemed like silence becomes clear as part of a larger plan guided by divine wisdom. The hidden work of Allah is a reminder that life is not only about what can be seen. Much of what shapes a person's journey happens quietly beyond human awareness. The believer's role is to continue trusting, continue praying, and continue believing that even when the path seems unclear, Allah is preparing something that will arrive at exactly the right time. Trusting Allah is one of the greatest strengths a believer can develop, especially during times when the path ahead is unclear. Human beings naturally want to understand how things will unfold. People prefer certainty, visible direction, and clear answers about what will happen next. Yet life often moves in ways that leave many questions unanswered. In those situations, faith becomes the anchor of the heart. Trusting Allah means believing that even when the plan is hidden, the one who controls every detail is guiding the story with perfect wisdom. The believer accepts that Allah sees what human eyes cannot see and understands what human minds cannot fully comprehend. A person may sometimes feel anxious when the future appears uncertain. Plans may fall apart, opportunities may seem delayed, and the direction of life may not feel clear. During these periods, trusting Allah becomes more than a simple phrase. It becomes a conscious choice. The believer reminds themselves that Allah's knowledge is complete while human knowledge is limited. This awareness brings calmness to the heart because it shifts the focus from worrying about every possible outcome to relying on the one who knows exactly what lies ahead. Trust in Allah also means understanding that not every part of life will be explained immediately. Some chapters of a person's journey unfold slowly. What seems confusing today may become meaningful later. Allah's plan often reveals itself step by step rather than all at once. This gradual unfolding allows the believer to grow spiritually while learning patience and humility along the way. Faith encourages believers to see beyond the present moment. When something does not go according to expectation, it does not automatically mean that the situation is bad. It may simply mean that Allah is guiding the person towards something better. Trusting Allah requires the heart to accept that what feels like a setback may actually be protection or redirection. The prophets themselves experienced periods of uncertainty, yet they remained steadfast in their trust. Their stories remind believers that trusting Allah is not about understanding every event immediately, but about maintaining faith that Allah's wisdom is always greater than human understanding. Their patience and confidence in Allah's plan became a source of strength not only for themselves, but also for generations that followed. Another part of trusting Allah involves continuing to make dua, even when answers are not yet visible. Supplication is a powerful reminder that the believer is never alone. Each sincere prayer reflects hope and reliance on Allah's mercy. Through dua, the heart stays connected to its Creator while waiting for the right moment for change. Trusting Allah also brings emotional peace. When a person accepts that Allah's plan is unfolding with perfect wisdom, the burden of controlling every outcome begins to lift. The believer still makes effort and takes responsible steps in life, but the anxiety of needing to control everything fades. Instead, the heart finds comfort in knowing that Allah is guiding the path. Another benefit of trust is the strength it builds during hardship. Difficult times often test a person's faith, but they also create opportunities for spiritual growth. A believer who continues to trust Allah despite uncertainty develops resilience and inner stability. This strength helps them face future challenges with greater confidence and patience. Trust in Allah also nurtures gratitude. Even when certain plans remain unclear, a believer learns to appreciate the blessings already present in their life. This awareness shifts attention away from worry and toward thankfulness. Gratitude reminds the heart that Allah's care and mercy are already visible in many aspects of life. Believers often look back and realize that moments of uncertainty were guiding them towards something beneficial. What once seemed confusing eventually becomes part of a meaningful story. The path that felt unclear begins to make sense when seen through the perspective of faith and patience. Trusting Allah does not mean a person will never feel worried or uncertain. These emotions are natural parts of the human experience. Faith simply teaches the believer not to allow those feelings to replace trust in Allah's wisdom. Even when the mind has questions, the heart continues to believe that Allah is guiding every step. The journey of life rarely reveals its full plan all at once. Yet a believer who trusts Allah learns to walk forward with confidence even when the path is partially hidden. By holding on to faith, continuing in prayer and believing in Allah's wisdom, the heart finds peace in knowing that every step is part of a plan designed with mercy, guidance and purpose. Patience is one of the most powerful qualities a believer can hold on to when life becomes difficult. It is not simply about waiting without emotion or struggle. It is about maintaining faith while moving through hardship. When someone practices patience, they are acknowledging that Allah's wisdom is greater than their own understanding. This belief allows the heart to remain steady even when circumstances feel overwhelming. Patience becomes the bridge between difficulty and relief, reminding the believer that every challenge carries the potential for growth and change. A person who learns to be patient begins to see life differently. Instead of measuring everything by immediate results, they begin to trust that Allah's timing is always precise. Human beings often want solutions to appear quickly, yet many blessings require preparation. Patience gives space for that preparation to take place. While the believer waits, Allah may be arranging events, guiding people, or shaping circumstances that will eventually lead to the outcome that is best for them. The journey of patience often strengthens the heart in unexpected ways. When someone continues making dua while practicing patience, their faith becomes deeper and more sincere. They begin to rely less on their own plans and more on Allah's guidance. This shift in perspective brings a quiet strength. Instead of feeling defeated by delays, the believer understands that every moment of patience carries reward and meaning. Patience also protects the heart from despair. Difficult situations can sometimes make a person feel as though change will never come. Yet faith reminds the believer that Allah has the power to transform any situation. Patience keeps hope alive during the waiting period. It prevents the heart from becoming overwhelmed by negative thoughts and replaces them with trust in Allah's mercy. Another beauty of patience is the way it shapes character. A person who learns to remain calm and hopeful during hardship develops qualities that make them stronger in many areas of life. Patience teaches humility, resilience, and self-control. These qualities not only strengthen faith, but also help a believer face future challenges with greater wisdom and confidence. Patience often brings clarity over time. When a person waits with trust in Allah, they may begin to notice lessons hidden within their experience. Difficult situations can reveal strengths that were previously unknown. They can also highlight blessings that may have been overlooked. This deeper awareness helps the believer understand that every stage of life carries its own purpose. The idea of miracles in Islam is not limited to extraordinary events that defy explanation. Sometimes the miracle is the way Allah changes circumstances gradually and beautifully. A door that once seemed closed may open at exactly the right time. A problem that once felt overwhelming may find a solution through unexpected means. Patience allows the believer to witness these changes with gratitude rather than frustration. Another aspect of patience is the ability to remain consistent in worship. Continuing to pray, make dua, and remember Allah during difficult times demonstrates true faith. These acts of devotion strengthen the believer's connection with Allah and invite His mercy into their life. Through patience and sincere worship, the heart becomes more open to the blessings that Allah has prepared. Patience also nurtures hope. Even when the path ahead appears uncertain, the believer understands that Allah's plan is always moving forward. This awareness prevents the heart from becoming discouraged. Instead of focusing only on present challenges, the believer begins to look forward with confidence that Allah's wisdom will eventually reveal itself. Many believers look back on their lives and realize that patience played a key role in shaping their journey. What once felt like a delay often turns out to be preparation. The waiting period becomes meaningful when seen from the perspective of faith. It shows that Allah was guiding events carefully rather than leaving the believer without direction. Patience also deepens gratitude when relief finally arrives. When a blessing comes after a period of waiting, the heart appreciates it more fully. The believer remembers the moments of dua, the nights of hope, and the strength required to keep trusting. This gratitude strengthens faith and encourages the believer to remain patient in future challenges. The door to miracles often opens quietly through patience. By trusting Allah's wisdom and continuing to hope during difficult times, the believer allows divine guidance to shape their story. Patience does not remove hardship instantly, but it prepares the heart to recognize the beauty of Allah's plan when the moment of change finally arrives. Life sometimes feels like a long stretch of waiting. A person continues making dua, continues trying to improve their situation, and continues hoping that relief will arrive. From the human perspective, the path may appear slow or uncertain, yet Allah's plan unfolds according to perfect timing. What seems delayed to the believer is often preparation within divine wisdom. When the moment chosen by Allah finally arrives, change can happen in ways that no human mind could have predicted. Situations that once felt impossible begin to shift, and the heart realizes that Allah was guiding every step all along. The transformation that Allah brings is often sudden from the human perspective. A door that remained closed for years may open within a single day. A difficulty that seemed permanent may disappear in a way that leaves the believer amazed. This change reminds the heart that Allah's power is beyond all limitations. What human beings consider impossible is always within the control of the Creator who manages every detail of the universe. Believers often look back and realize that the waiting period prepared them for the moment of change. Patience strengthened their character, and continued dua deepened their faith. By the time relief arrives, the believer has grown spiritually in ways they might not have noticed during the waiting period. The journey itself becomes meaningful because it shaped the heart and strengthened trust in Allah. Another beautiful aspect of Allah's timing is its precision. The answer often arrives at the exact moment it is most needed. A person may feel that relief should have come earlier, but when the moment finally unfolds, it becomes clear that the timing was perfect. If the blessing had arrived sooner, the believer may not have been ready to appreciate it fully or use it wisely. When Allah changes a situation, it also reminds the believer of the power of sincere dua. Every prayer made during the difficult days carries meaning. Even when answers were not visible immediately, those supplications were heard and valued. The believer begins to understand that no sincere call to Allah is ever wasted. The moment of change often brings deep gratitude. After experiencing hardship or uncertainty, the believer feels a renewed appreciation for Allah's mercy. Gratitude becomes stronger because the person remembers how difficult the journey once felt. This appreciation encourages the believer to remain humble and thankful for every blessing. Allah's change may appear in many forms. Sometimes it arrives as a new opportunity, a solution to a long-standing problem, or a sense of peace replacing anxiety. At other times, it may come as guidance that leads a person toward a path they had never considered before. Each of these outcomes reflects Allah's wisdom working in the believer's life. Faith becomes stronger when a believer witnesses how Allah can transform circumstances. Experiences like these reinforce the understanding that Allah's control over life is absolute. The heart learns that no situation is beyond His ability to change. This realization encourages the believer to approach future challenges with greater confidence and trust. Another lesson within these moments is the reminder that Allah never forgets the struggles of His servants. Every tear, every prayer, and every effort is known to Him. Even when the path feels lonely, the believer is never truly alone. Allah's guidance remains present even when the outcome has not yet appeared. The change brought by Allah also encourages believers to maintain hope during future hardships. Once someone experiences how Allah can transform a situation, they become more patient when facing new challenges. They remember that the story is not finished until Allah decides the final chapter. Relief often arrives in ways that remind the believer of Allah's mercy and generosity. The outcome may be greater than what was originally asked for. Allah's blessings are not limited to what the human mind can imagine. When His wisdom unfolds, the result can exceed every expectation. The moment Allah changes, everything becomes a powerful reminder that faith and patience are never wasted. Even when the journey feels long, Allah's plan continues moving forward with perfect balance. When the time written by Allah arrives, the believer witnesses how beautifully the story was guided from the beginning. Sometimes the greatest blessings arrive after the longest waiting. What feels like delay is often Allah preparing something better than what the heart imagined. When life becomes heavy and nothing seems to change, it does not mean Allah has forgotten. It simply means the story is still unfolding in a way only He knows. Continue making dua, remain patient, and keep trusting His plan. When the time written by Allah arrives, the relief, the answer, and the miracle can come in a way that changes everything.